Hey everyone, welcome back to Jim's EV Adventures. This is the channel where we hit the road in electric vehicles, bust myths, and prove the future of driving is, in reality, already here. I'm Jim, and I'm your host, coming to you from beautiful DeBary, Florida, where my EVs have taken me on adventures all over this great land without the need for a single gas stop. Before we get started with this episode, I want to share with you a bit of feedback on my last episode. And the link to that video will be popping up somewhere over here, and a link will also be in the description below. That video was about the EV market flipping and how EV sales, both new and used, will take off over the course of the next couple years. A user by the name of Art provided the absolutely perfect comment. It reads, "There were a bunch of cheap EVs on dealer lots around me a few weeks ago. Now they're all gone. And one of them is in my driveway." You can't get any better than that. If it don't make you chuckle, you need to go to the doctor and get your tickle box fixed. But today's episode is another positive outlook on the EV market. It's a story of triumph over tactics as old as marketing itself. FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. You've all heard the whispers. EVs don't go far enough. Batteries catch fire too easy. The grid will collapse. It's all a liberal plot. When your battery fails, it'll cost you a fortune. Every piece of FUD that you can possibly imagine has been uttered in the comments on this channel. These aren't random opinions popping up out of nowhere, though. They're a coordinated strategy by the fossil fuel industry and parts of the American automotive establishment, dealerships, to protect their turf and wedge Americans apart politically. They draw lines between us, and sometimes we fall prey to their trap, but not this day. Why? Because here's the good news. FUD is failing. EV sales are surging. Look at this graphic right here. Innovation is also surging rapidly. Look at BYD charging speeds. And everyday drivers like you and me are proving the skeptics wrong with every single mile we drive and with every gas station we pass on our way back and forth to work and home. Let's break it all down with facts, with history, and more importantly, with hope, and show why electrification is absolutely unstoppable. FUD is a classic playbook. Spread fear to slow adoption of a disruptive technology. The fossil fuel and legacy auto industries did not invent it, but they have mastered it against EVs. Why? Well, we got to look at history here. Let's go back to a story that started decades ago. In the 1960s, the American Petroleum Institute lobbied against federal support for electric cars. In 1967, yes, 60 years ago, they argued against a bill promoting EVs, saying government shouldn't dedicate federal funds to the promotion of a single possible solution, while they quietly enjoyed massive subsidies for the very hand that fed them, oil. Fast forward to 2005, API's president fought against another EV support bill, claiming we couldn't leave the age of oil before a realistic alternative is fully in place. Hypocrisy much? The oil industry got $760 billion in U.S. subsidies alone in 2022, and yet blocked help for the very tech that was threatening them. Let's go back even into the 1990s and look at GM's EV1. This purpose-built electric car was a technological marvel. It was leased to drivers who loved them. Then GM crushed most of them after the leases ended. The 2006 documentary, Who Killed the Electric Car, spotlighted oil industry pressure and the automotive dealership network's reluctance to sell them. GM called it a business decision because of limited range and high cost at the time. But it became Exhibit A for FUD, promising EVs then pulling the plug to protect gas-powered profits. Electrification of our personal transportation threatens billions in fossil fuel profits. But let's look at where this story actually comes from. Let's see. So, Big Oil has known about climate risks since the 1950s and 60s, but they chose profit over truth. A 2025 Union of Concerned Scientists report details how ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP, and Shell had accurate internal science by the 1980s, yet continued to fund disinformation about the risk of climate change. These are facts that anyone with a third-grade education can uncover for themselves. I'm not going to rehash them here. There's plenty of videos, including on my own channel, and I'll put a few links in the description below. These tactics evolved from outright denial to greenwashing, in other words, promoting natural gas as a bridge fuel while knowing its emissions rival that of coal, and then targeted anti-EV FUD. A 2024 joint Senate-House staff report exposed it. Big Oil used front groups, dark money, and trade associations like the API to spread doubt on EVs. Things like range anxiety, higher costs, minerals, grid strain. They lobbied against subsidies while taking their own. A UN report called it a massive mis- and disinformation campaign, slowing the green transition globally. Examples? Oil-backed groups challenged EV charging plans in 10-plus states. They fund think tanks pushing narratives that EVs are elite toys, are job killers, and it works until you take a long, hard look at the data. American automakers, the big three and their allies, are not innocent either. A May 2024 Influence Map report analyzed 15 major global automakers. All of them, except Tesla, lobbied against at least one of the many EV promoting policies. 10 scored a D or worse, and Toyota ranked dead last, pushing hybrids and weakening emission standards in the US, Australia, and the UK. The Alliance for Automotive Innovation, representing Detroit, successfully watered down US greenhouse gas rules. And Japanese automakers were the worst offenders, protecting their internal combustion engine investments. The result? Delayed full EV rollouts, heavy hybrid pivots in 2024, 2025, and 2026, and quiet FUD via dealer lots. Hybrids are safer bets, they tell prospective customers. They invested billions in EVs early on, then slowed when demand wobbled, blaming the market while ignoring how their own mixed messages led to these slowing sales. It's just a circular reasoning thing. You can't make this stuff up. Their actions are delusional and disorganized. They are afraid of whichever political party happens to be in office. They don't know whether they're coming or going, to be honest. It's quite disheartening. But when you begin to see the pattern, you're no longer bound by their chains or fooled by their FUD. You can make informed decisions when you do your research. FUD doesn't just sell gasoline. It actually divides you and me. It divides us. A 2025 National Bureau of Economic Research, NBER working paper, crunched the 2012 to 2023 U.S. registration data. Nearly half of all new EVs went to the 10% most Democratic counties in the U.S. 1/3 went to the top 5. Even controlling for income, density, gas prices, and charging access, the correlation still holds. But EV trucks, surprisingly, show slightly broader appeal, but that pattern still persists overall. And the Ford F-150 Lightning was a victim of this widespread FUD. Why? It is not knowledge gaps. A 2025 survey found that Democrats and Republicans are both equally informed about EVs. But here's the thing. The anti-EV campaigns gave us virtue signaling, and FUD amplified narratives like EVs are a left-wing mandate, climate change is just imagined, EVs are a fire danger, EVs don't have enough range, EVs don't have the charging infrastructure like we have for gasoline cars and gas stations. But the fact is, oil and big automotive money flows heavily to one side, funding anti-EV rhetoric in red states, promoting things like EV taxes and blocked incentives. The wedge is real, but it's manufactured by our friends in the fossil fuel cartels and carried out by spineless politicians, mostly Republicans, but Democrats in fossil fuel-rich districts take just as much money as their Republican counterparts, especially in coal country and natural gas-rich districts. But here's where the story turns uplifting. Despite all this FUD, policy headwinds, which included the loss of the 2025 federal tax credit, and short-term sales dips resulting from that loss, EVs keep growing. Here are a few things to think about. From 2015 to 2025, internal combustion engines car sales decreased from 17.5 million units to 14.9 million units. That's a 15% decrease over 10 years. Over that same period, EV sales went from about 160,000 units to over 1.35 million units. That's an 800% increase. Take a look at this graphic. 2025, despite the loss of the tax credit, was the second best year ever for U.S. EV sales, with a record Q3 in 2025 before the credits were taken away. Cox Automotive and Recurrent Auto both project a rebound to between 11 and 12% in 2026, with 20+% by 2030 under current policies. I personally think this will be higher because of the Iran conflict, but who knows? Time will tell. Used EVs are flooding the market, giving us the best car deals in 20 years, per Kelley Blue Book. Globally, there was a 20% plus growth in 2025. Battery prices are down 8% more in 2025, now around $100 a kilowatt hour. More affordable models are already on the market or coming soon. Think Chevy Bolt Refresh, Nissan Leaf Refresh, and soon the Rivian R2. Owner satisfaction, highest ever per J.D. Power, 96% would buy an EV again. I just gave you a video about that a few days ago. The link to that video is here and in the description below. Real-world savings are thousands of dollars a year on fuel and maintenance alone. And I've given you my perspective on this over the past 3 years, and nothing about what I've given you has changed. Charging networks are exploding. NEVI funds are actually flowing again, and state and utility programs are expanding DC fast chargers. Now we just need to get over on the level 1 and level 2 side of the house and give people a place to charge slower when they're working or at home. The emissions of an EV are 1/3 to 1/5 that of a comparable ICE car. And then there are lower life cycle costs. Even compared to the most efficient gas car, any EV is better. And here's the thing, my own Jim's EV experiences are facts based on my personal living with an EV. After almost 7 years, I have zero range anxiety. I find that operating an EV is much cheaper. Driving one is quieter. You get faster acceleration. These are all facts that are undisputed. And I have proof. That's the counter to this outlandish FUD. It is my lived experience. It is your lived experience. And you cannot counter firsthand living experience. It just cannot be done, even with a quiver full of FUD. It just doesn't work anymore. And thousands of people are living the same experience, and they're making their voices heard every single day. And here's something for the negative armchair warriors who hate this channel and channels like it. Think about this before you comment with your sheepish and bold insults.
Sorry. I didn't mean anything by that.
I crap bigger than you.
Yeah. Fossil fuel and legacy auto resistance is real, but it's the last gasp of the arrogant and aristocratic FUD mongers who are facing disruption of their dinosaur industries. Innovation like solid-state batteries, wireless charging, increased U.S. manufacturing, and consumer demand are winning the day. And then in states like California and New York leading the way with zero-emission vehicle rules, big fleets, think Pepsi and Amazon, are electrifying for savings, and new jobs are coming online in the battery and charging industries. So America has innovation, and American innovation is at its best when it's allowed to operate freely. FUD thrives in the dark, so let's shine the light on it together. Share your data. Share your EV story. Share your real EV economics. It's your personal testimony, your word of mouth, and that's what makes the change. The wedge that they bring, we can reject it. Electrification benefits all Americans. Cleaner air, especially in underserved communities, energy independence, no foreign oil or OPEC overlords, lower long-term costs, which means more money in your pocket, thrilling drives, and the list goes on and on. Thank you for joining Jim's EV Adventures today. If this episode fired you up, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and drop your biggest FUD-busting moment in the comments. This episode is your toolkit. FUD loses when we choose facts and fun drives. Once you hit the road in an EV, you will never look back, and who knows, maybe I'll see you out there or somewhere along the route from point A to point B. Take it easy, and I'll see you all real soon.